Good day, viewers. You're in the kitchen today with Honey, sharing with you some of my delicious tricks in the pots and pans. This show is called A Taste of Honey in the Kitchen, Food, Styling, and Entertainment. So today we're going to make chicken in a white wine cream sauce. In my cooking, I believe that everything should be inviting looking. So color variation is very important. So for this dish, we're going to chop it so that you don't need a knife to eat this. You could make it with whole pieces of chicken, but we're going to cut that chicken up. So before we start with the chicken, we're going to prep the vegetables that are going into this dish. In this dish is going to be a trilogy of peppers. So we're going to use red, green, and orange today. Red onion, garlic, and scallions. We're going to chop these things up, and you never want any of the ingredients going in to be bigger than the main ingredient in the dish. So for this purpose, the main ingredient is chicken. So the chicken will be cubed. So we're going to cut this in cubes, but smaller cubes than that chicken would be. So that when we put it in the dish together, it will complement it and look beautiful, so that the chicken is the biggest ingredient in the pan. So we're going to begin by cleaning these off, then we're going to come back to the chopping board and we're going to chop these up. So we have our green pepper already chopped up, so now we're chopping our red. I come across and make long ones, long cuts, and I come back across and I chop so that I'm ending up with pieces about that big. Okay? So we're going to do that, and I'll meet you back here when we get to the chicken. So now that we have our vegetables ready and prepped to go into the dish, we're now going to work with the chicken. We're using boneless breast today for this recipe, and we're going to cube it up. We don't want it to be bigger, not too much bigger than the farfalle pasta that we're going to serve it over, which is also known as bow tie. So that's about how big we want our chicken, in cubes like that. Alright, so we're going to cut both of these breasts up, which is going to come to about a pound of meat for this recipe. We're using a pound of boneless chicken breast. Alright, so let's get cubing. So for today's recipe, we're going to use a couple of mixes of herbs and spices. I put them all in one bowl together and I mix them up so it's seasonal. Garlic powder, black ground pepper, dried parsley, and a little bit of cayenne pepper. I always put cayenne pepper in all my recipes, just a pinch, sometimes a little more, because it gives that little extra kick. So now we're going to prepare our pan. We need 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and we want to get that good and heated up. And spread that all around the pan. Stop. So now we're going to add our chicken, our cubed up chicken, 1 pound. Pan is nice and hot, not to the point where it's going to burn. And we're going to sprinkle it with this seasoning mixture right across the top. Now we're going to toss that around, and we're going to start that cooking process. And we want to cook it about 75% done. So that means we want to start to get it done on one side, flip it around. And why we want it 75% cooked is because then we're going to add the vegetables to it. We don't want to add the vegetables too soon because we want the chicken to at least start that cooking process. So now the chicken is nicely cooked, about 75% there. We're going to start adding our vegetables. Starting with our red pepper, our orange pepper, green, giving them some nice color. Well, we lost one, casualty. And our red onion. Start mixing that around. We're going to add some of these scallions, not all. Going to save some for some garnishing. And we're going to add a little garlic. About a nice teaspoonful. And we're going to make sure the heat is still turned up, and we're going to start tossing that around so that it can mix together and begin cooking. What we want to do now is most of that juice from the chicken has cooked off, and we want this to start to cook down. This part of the recipe, you want this to cook and start to stick to the bottom of the pan. You don't want it to burn. You want it to start to stick to the bottom of the pan. You're going to toss it a few times, so you're going to let that juice cook completely off from your chicken. And keep it on high. And the reason why you want to do that is because that's that soot that's going to turn this gravy into brown. So remember, we're making a white wine cream sauce, but it's going to have that Tuscan feel and look, because once this begins to brown on the bottom of the pan and starts to stick, we'll toss it around one time, let it go back to sticking again, not burning, a key point here. Then you're going to add that white wine, and when you do, it's going to flame right up and turn brown. As you see, all of the juice has cooked off, so it's totally reduced, and now it's sizzling because it's starting the part where it browns on the bottom of the pan, creating that soot. See on the side of the pan right there? And that's what you want for flavoring. That's that essence that we're going to have in this dish. So you want to start to stir it up. You see on the bottom of this pan? See how it's brown? That's not burned. It's just brown. And that brown right here is going to go into our food. So we're going to mix it around, let it sizzle one more time. Being very careful not to allow it to burn. 1 cup of wine for this recipe. I'm going to pour it in here for our 1 cup. For those who enjoy wine, take a sip. And then you're going to add 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire, whatever. Who knows if I said it right, but guess what? You know what it is, right? So as you see, it's nice and sizzling. Sticking to the bottom of that pan. And we're going to add our wine. So when you add your wine, now it's at a full, nice, rapid boil, and you have a nice brown coloring. Very flavorful at this point. So it's boiling. Very simple, elegant. If you're on a first date and you're trying to impress him his first time coming over, not a first date, because the first date he should be taking you out. But now we're going to add our 1 cup of cream. So we're going to add that heavy cream. We're going to let that come back to a boil. And you see how it has that nice Tuscan color? And that coloring, that caramel color, is coming from the fact that you allowed that soot to form at the bottom of the pan without burning it. You see? We're going to put the lid on that and let that come to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, we're going to turn that down and let it simmer. Meanwhile, we're cooking our farfalle pasta, also known as bow tie. This dish today is going to be served over garlic buttered bow tie pasta, sidelined by broccoli and asparagus. And we want to turn that down and let it simmer.
Let's go one more time.
It's at a rapid boil, so now we're going to turn that down and allow it to simmer. Turn it down to a low heat. Sprinkle in about 1/4 teaspoon of dried basil. So if you wanted the sauce to be thicker, you would add in flour. You could whisk in a 1/4 teaspoon to a 1/2 teaspoon of flour into the cream and add that into the sauce and make sure that you're whisking it in. That would thicken it and give it a thicker, creamier sauce. Then you would make sure that you're serving it on a bigger pasta, because you know the thicker the sauce, the thicker the pasta. The thinner the pasta, the thinner the sauce. So for this recipe though, we're not going to make this thicker because flour just adds calorie and I don't need them. And I don't think you do either. So let's go over, check on our sauce. I'm going to taste test it since I don't have someone today. Let's see. It's good. So now we are finished cooking our farfalle pasta, and we've cooked it till al dente. You never want to overcook it, because if you did, in this case with it being bow tie pasta, that farfalle would no longer be bow tie. It would come apart and it would be a big flat noodle. So you want to keep its shape. So to simply keep it so that it's nice and loose and not clumped together, I take a couple of pats of butter and I melt it and toss this with some fresh garlic, about a 1/4 teaspoon, dried parsley, and a little seasoning salt. So it actually is very flavorful on its own and stores nicely in the refrigerator as a leftover. Now that we've steamed our broccoli and our asparagus, now we're ready to plate it up. Remember, ladies, if we're trying to have an elegant first date at home, not first date that you're dating him, first date at home, then you want to do something that's simple but can be served very elegantly. So what I've done was I melted some butter, garlic, little seasoning salts, depends on what you like. If you want a little spicy, and I'm just plating it up to make it look very attractive. There'll be no kissing on this first date because there's lots of garlic. Very attractive. Plates up very nicely. I've already tossed your asparagus.
Move the bowl.
I've already tossed your asparagus, so I'm simply just rolling it around for the last little bit. Ah, look at how beautiful that looks. Oh, he's definitely going to visit a Zales for a wedding ring. That's funny, a Zales. But he's definitely going to look at marriage material here. Now we want to take our pasta, put our pasta in the serving bowl. All nice and beautiful and attractive looking. And our chicken white wine cream sauce. And it looks fabulous. And we're going to pour that right into this serving dish. Have the table ready. On the next episode, I'll show you how to make a quick centerpiece. Make your table look elegant. I can tell you, when he leaves this date, he's calling Mama to say, I think I met the one. Going to take some fresh scallions, sprinkle it across the top. Some fresh chopped Italian parsley right across the top, right in the center. Make it look pretty. Add a little on that. Ooh, let's go. Parsley is very good. And if you have somebody that doesn't have the freshest breath, it's even better, because parsley kills bad breath. And then this is fresh grated Parmesan and Romano cheese. You're going to sprinkle that also right across the top of your dish. Voila! You have simply made a very easy dinner, elegant, and in 20 to 30 minutes. How fast is that? You could have came home from work and whipped this together. And I'm telling you, it tastes even better. Tune in next time to A Taste with Honey in the Kitchen, and we'll have some more fun cooking together.